All right, welcome back to the Pennsylvania and Berwind episode 19. And we are here with Andrew. We haven't seen Andrew for quite a while, several episodes. Andrew had just finished up dropping off some coal, and now Andrew is still in Grafton, where we left him. And now Andrew is going to help us out by heading into Allegheny, but picking up some of the covered hoppers, empty covered hoppers that are just sitting on the yard track in Grafton. So we're going to be coming back to Andrew, but basically first Andrew will have to drop these coal hoppers and then pick up those covered hoppers. And we're going to need a lot of covered hoppers because basically we've got demand for empty covered hoppers at Agway, at Briars. Both of those are doing 12 cars of wheat. And then also Universal, we didn't pick up 2 spent grains at Universal because I kind of messed up by imagining that we were supposed to drop off spent grains instead of picking it up like we were supposed to. So that's that. Yes, here we are coming over this little river in Grafton. Isla had dropped her train, 2 cars off of her train here, and then we realized that we actually need to only drop 1 car. And I thought, it would be convenient if we could have Adair help out with this task, because Adair is also heading to Juniata. Actually, there's a lot of people that are going to be heading to Juniata because got a lot of stuff heading off the route and a lot of stuff heading to Juniata in general. I thought Adair would be well placed since he's right behind us here to help out with this task and maybe drop off those cars at the distribution center with paper, which is a today task, quite urgent. But I don't think that's going to make sense because that's going to take a while to drop off, and meanwhile we could have Isla doing something else. We could have her leave the map and come back and then be doing something else rather than sending her into Allegheny and having all these cars stuck in Juniata working the distribution center. So sticking with the original plan except for switching out this 1 car, which is unfortunate. But, all these people who live here in Laurel, they are used to hearing the sound of that horn. And they like it. They moved here to Laurel specifically because they like trains. Not because the housing is cheap. Never say that. As our conductor, we're going to come back here and we're going to check out, make sure that this is not hitting too quickly. We've got a heavy train here, even though I cut it in the middle and everything. That was actually too subtle. Didn't quite get it. So yeah, that 1 car that we are setting out, which is not really the appropriate term. I'm not sure what the appropriate term is. Maybe it is setting out. Anyway, that 1 car needs to go back to Shawnee. But no problem. We can get around it. It's not blocking anybody for right now. Probably will be blocking somebody in the future if we leave it there too long, but we're not going to. We've got tons of other people to help out in this general area. We're not far from Allegheny, so that's good. With the changes that I made to the route, we are far from Juniata. We are far from Grafton. Nobody playing on the swings, and that's because it's 12:30 in the afternoon, so people are at school. It's a weekday. I don't think I've mentioned that before, but yes, these are weekdays that we're playing in. So if this is day 3 on the Pennsylvania Berwind, it is a Wednesday. If I were some sort of computer programmer, if I had some ability to influence the development of this game, I might include something like that. Well, actually, maybe it is included because technically we have the calendar function, but I never really look at that because it doesn't affect anything. It only affects seasonality, right? Okay, now Smiley is going to head to the portal. So Adair kind of got stuck here waiting for that little transaction. Now all these cars are filled with paper, I believe. There might be something else though. I see something else, so some general goods, okay. So we probably do want to at least check out what that general goods order is for, and I think it is for the Old Town branch. Ah, yes, it is for the Berwind Eureka store on the Old Town branch. I think it's called the Old Town branch. I don't quite have the lingo. Of course, I could have looked instead of my spreadsheet. I could have looked in the car tagger because I think all those are now correct. Try it via... All right, we will be back to Adair. Okay, back now with Andrew. Andrew has just reached the Grafton yard. There was no need to follow him all that way because we had other things to do, right? So yeah, these covered hoppers will be going into Allegheny, and some of them will be going to Briars, some of them will be going to Agway. Looks like all the switches have been thrown already. That's nice. I presume that is the junction derailment prevention rule in action. This is a long yard track. I think we've only been here one time before, and I remarked on that as well. But no problem. This is a good place to store these coal hoppers. I had been storing them over near the dock area, which I thought also was an excellent place to store them, except then our locomotive and caboose is sort of stuck there as well, and rarely going to be coming over there to do any switching except for dropping off coal trains. Now, I imagine that the concept there was to sort of imagine that coal dock would be receiving just hundreds of coal hoppers, and you'd need a lot of storage tracks for that reason. But in practice, we're never going to get to that level of trains. These are my Pennsylvania and Berwind GP9s. 1980s paint scheme, a little updated from the paint scheme of the Pennsylvania and Berwind. According to Approach Medium and possibly according to Jointed Rail, I'm not sure who all had a hand in it. I think maybe quite a few creators had a hand in creating the vanilla scheme, which is actually prototypical to one of the railroads, one of the short line railroads over there in the area. It's a fictional railroad in reality, but there are certainly prototypical trains. And of course, I've implemented the route as a branch line of Conrail. Okay, let's just keep going though. Should have taken off autopilot earlier. Somehow thought I had. And I had checked all those switches as well. Sometimes autopilot and the junction derailment prevention rule are mystifying. So we just need to get beyond this switch and leave the caboose. Then we'll plop these hoppers on the sidetrack, get the covered hoppers, and be off to Allegheny. See how fast this guy can stop. I think we've got plenty of space, or more than enough space. Just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to lead to any extra moves there if we overshot. Because I'm the lone operator here, I have to be, obviously there's AI trains and everything and all the engineers we see, but in practice I'm trying to be, and I aspire to be, basically operating these trains, mostly under my command. Because of that, I end up just stashing locomotives and cabooses wherever it's convenient, as if the crew wouldn't need to, be back at the yard to go get their car or whatever. And obviously, in reality, you'd have the engine crew would want to get back to the yard to, do what they need to do. Flip this switch and flip this switch. So yeah, it's not very prototypical for Andrew to have been sitting there, with these two units for a day or two, maybe. But I'm not going to make a big deal of changing that. Number 77 and number 79. And I think the way I've organized the numbering for the P&B locomotives is to assume that each different class of locomotive has a different beginning number, like 7, or it could be a 3-digit number, so in that case 12 would be the first number. Not that they have 77 or 79 GP9s, no way. Let's say they probably have about 12 locomotives in total for their whole branch line, with most of the other activity on the route being handled by Conrail. They have track rates. And the cities on the route are not small, so it's a fairly small number of locomotives considering the amount of traffic and the amount of population being served. So perhaps a few dozen locomotives would be a tad more reasonable. It's mostly Great Northerns on this string of covered hoppers. Oh, I'm not going to put on autopilot because we still need to get the caboose. Now we have 22 covered hoppers. Is that true? Didn't realize it was so many. Well, that's more than enough, but it's better to have a surplus and better to have these located at some place that will be convenient, not here in Grafton. Of course, they are here in Grafton because Jane dropped them off in probably episode 1 or 2. No, not episode. Day 1 or 2, Jane dropped these off after finishing up at the Ag Co-op. Quite some tropical animals in the background here. Don't know if that's audible, but I presume it is. Now, the major town in between Grafton and Allegheny is Highland. There may be a couple more, but that's the closest one. So we're going to have to check and make sure that the Highland area is not all congested, which currently there is one train in Highland, which is Amy. Amy is taking care of Sweet's factory and will also be dealing with the Highland oil and fuel distribution center, where there's some unloading that's been going on for quite some time. First, let's get this caboose hooked up. Sorry about all the rotating. I really wish somehow there was a way to reduce that, other than just remaining static. I try to be conscious of it, but obviously not very successful. When you do the backing up maneuver, the camera does rotate automatically quite a bit. All right, aerial conductor is saying we're good to go with this switch. It's been repeatedly suggested that I should use the realistic mode more frequently. Of course, I tend to use realistic mode mostly in the cab. Yes, and I don't seem to be very good at managing realistic mode, to say the least. Needs more practice, obviously. Okay, driving to Highland and then to Allegheny. Okay, now when we left Tram was just finishing up here at the Shawnee team track, but there are two more tank cars that need to go to Old Town Oil Distribution. So that is the next destination. But we also have that other car from Old Town that needs to go to that area, so that could be done at the same time. And then we also have the general goods, which are in the train of Adair. So that is right around the corner. We're right around the corner from Laurel, and we're moving very slowly. So yeah. So yeah, we can just say that these are going to none. Oh, these should also be tagged as none. Alco S2s, but let's look at Adair, because Adair needs to do some switching before he can continue. Feels like we were just here, but it's a different train. Different train, but almost the same maneuver, I would say. Yeah, let's just pop back here and make sure the switches are aligned correctly. This is quite a long siding here. Looks good. I wonder if in realistic mode the brakes are less effective, or I guess it assumes that you're using dynamic, independent, and everything. When you're on easy mode, when you activate the, let's say, stop train or reverse train, it assumes you putting all the brakes on in optimal effectiveness. A little update on my cab project. I have actually finished making the mesh and most of the textures for all 6 of the locomotive cabs that I have been working on this last month or so. And it's been a much longer project than that, actually, but and the GP9 cab, that is probably the furthest along, except for the SW, which we already saw. Okay, so I'm starting to have doubts about my plan here. But I guess I still will do what I was originally thinking. It really breaks much more slowly under realistic mode. Look at that. Okay, we're going to reverse it because we need to drop off the caboose. And sometimes I'm not sure if it's the game is... yes, the brake pressure needs to build up under realistic mode. So that adds a little bit of time, which is obviously realistic. Okay, we're just going to drop the caboose here. Now this is the dynamic brake, so that's not really used. I'm going to say it's not really useful at this situation. And we need to get all of the cars here except for those box cars at the head end. All the paper cars. Okay, we're going to save time by going back into easy mode here. Oh yes, we want to do this. Just leave the caboose. It's a heavy train. It's stopping slowly even on easy mode. Some Frisco boxcars. I may have remarked on the Frisco boxcars last time. I know I mistakenly said that it was sometime in the 80s that Frisco merged with the Burlington Northern, but actually it was 1980, which is around the time of this route, late 70s, early 80s. Let's say early 80s because I already mentioned the P&B paint scheme from the 80s. My other route, the Wallace Branch, is definitely in the late 70s. Okay, I'm going to say that we are well clear. We don't need to actually clear that signal to be well clear. Slack is mostly played out, I think. For game purposes it is. One of my eventual projects, which I often think about when I'm in the neighborhood of Laurel, is to go in and see if I could edit those dog barking sounds, not delete them, but make them longer loops so that the dog would bark much less frequently. I know that there are other people who do operating series and build series, obviously, in trains. I don't know if there are any of those who really do content creation, though, other than the routes themselves. Let's follow in the boxcar. We're hanging on the boxcar. And I have remarked before, but this is a game that really lends itself to slow operations. Much like railroading, I think. I have been playing some Derail Valley recently as part of multiplayer. And of course I like that game as well, not surprising. Okay, you can stop, and now we are going to head you on autopilot to Juniata distribution. Juniata, now navigate to Juniata distribution. All right, while that was going on, Tram is just entering the siding at Laurel, so we're almost ready to come back to Tram. You probably don't remember, but Jessica was sent off to Grundy's. Now, this is the first time we've been to Grundy's in this episode, and I just sent her to Grundy's and told the train to unload here without realizing that the track ended here at the end of this. It's not actually a siding. I thought it was a siding. But it looks like it's going to be significantly more complicated for that reason, as well as for the reason that all of the limestone is going to Grundy's, but all the sand is going to Juniata. And maybe that's a flaw in my spreadsheet design, that perhaps this should not happen. But yeah, this is going to definitely make it a little bit more complex. Now, I did add an extra track here because I wanted this also to be a cement manufacturing facility. Now, why is that not unloading? I think it's not unloading because it was going too fast, and then it's sort of funny. I don't think I've ever seen that situation before. Let's pull back and then see what happens. It's interesting beeping noise in the background. I wonder what that's coming from. Is it from the industry itself, or is it from one of these vehicles, perhaps? So this little track behind us, that's not going to hold all of these cars, so it's a cinch to say that we're going to first have to store them on this other siding here. I believe that there's a siding. Ah, yes, this siding here. Sorry about that. It would be enough if we only had to do to the end of the limestone in this little segment, but unfortunately we didn't block the cars at all, so that's going to affect everything. In reality, the amount of limestone that these cars could hold would make a pile much larger than what you see down on the ground here, but that's okay. Still good enough. I'm surprised that which cars are unloading versus which have not started yet. Maybe we just have to be a little bit closer. Okay, there we go. Now, the multi-industry 2, the way that works is that sometimes when it's registered a car as being unable to perform or already loaded or not correct for that good or whatever, for whatever reason, it decided not to operate on a car, it won't evaluate that car continually afterwards. It will wait until it left and then returned. That's obviously to save some memory. So I think that's why this is going to work now that we sent this little car. We sent this particular car a little bit away in distance. I hope it's not that the whole train would have to move out of range, because then that obviously would not work for us. Being uber cautious now. It is a bit of a test, I would say. And it's a test that worked. And I wonder if I just sped up now, I don't think that changes anything. Once it starts unloading, it will just unload no matter what. But we're not going to do that. Alrighty. Yeah, we have sand in the middle of the train. It's all messed up. So I think right here, we want to move all of these into the siding and then start over with this unloading process with these. But it might actually be more efficient to block it all in one group first. It is a reasonably long train, and I really hope that we're not going to be blocking anybody here in Grafton, here in Grundy's. I think Grundy's is on the Juniata side, though. I am really confused. I'm just not familiar enough with the route yet. I'm getting there, episode 19, but I haven't played it continually, and I'm not playing it other than on this series. So that obviously affects the learning rate. And I can say that I'm not playing trains other than in my 2 operating series, but I guess you could say that also that I am playing trains because I'm spending a huge amount of time doing these locomotive cabs for trains. And that is keeping me plenty busy, so not enough time for route creation, not enough time for handling the uploading of the Wallace branch, and not enough time to evaluate this new beta, new service pack 6 that came out and experienced a lot of trouble. And I understand that today or yesterday a new patch was released for beta testing that could fix some of those performance issues that were observed by seemingly most of the people, not all. I have a lot of sympathy for the company N3V and how difficult it is to deal with the demanding community that has so many different desires. And I acknowledge that my own wishes for what trains would and would not do to develop the game further are probably not shared by even the majority, although my priority of having better lighting and better skybox, maybe, arguably, there'd be widespread agreement on that. But you do see a lot of people saying, especially maybe younger people saying, it'd be really neat if there was derailment physics, or obviously trans-living railroad, something that I've mentioned before I'm not using and not interested in. I hear quite a few people on the forums or on Discord saying that they're looking forward to that being improved further. Okay, now we have to remember this train takes much longer time to stop than I had accounted for while I was talking there. Okay, that's our last sand in that cut. Question is, now I do want to block it here and not do this again, not unload and then do this again. So let's, it's interesting that car is not actually fully full, but that's okay. We will ignore that. How much space do we have here is an important point. I would say only space for like 4 more cars. How many sand cars do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Gosh, it's going to be complicated. It's complicated, but I believe it is doable. Now, I just said I was gonna account for the train's weight. It's now a considerably lighter train, but then I put the throttle in the wrong direction. Grundy's is a cool area. I really like it. I'm not sure if I've seen the build series for Grundy's. I feel like I haven't. Now we may see, but I doubt it, we may see the crop sprayer. I don't know which direction he comes from. All right, here we are. Got those. And I would say this is like a little bit of a switching puzzle, isn't it? Because that siding is not long enough. Obviously, we could just use this main line. We are using the main line already. We'll see. We'll see how many it fits. I think 4 or possibly 5. But it's, I think it's a fairly easy puzzle, even if we didn't have the main line to fall back on. Bit of a long clear on that particular switch, I'd say. And an unnecessary long clear given how far we've been overshooting it. Keep going. Yes, that was definitely rough handling, I know. Partly it's the caboose that is affecting us, so maybe I just drop the caboose at the end. We'll see. We'll see how much we can fit. All we have to do is clear that track just right now. Okay, I didn't quite go far enough, I don't think, there. I think that's far enough. Okay, so where are we at? Oh yeah, we've got space. Okay. I was going to show off some intricate switching, but that is totally not necessary. So yes, now we can finish off this Grundy's delivery. So that's 2 tasks completed so far this session. I had the idea that we would be able to do more, as always. It didn't look so difficult, but then in practice, these actual switching moves do take quite a bit of time. While we're doing that, we can check on where Andrew has gotten to. Andrew may not be moving. Maybe Andrew is blocked right now. Stop for right signal. All right, let's get to the back of the train. Finish off this limestone drop-off. I do love the way this area is built, both the built-up area, but also the way the lay of the land is with the farms and the rising terrain towards the edge of the map. It's, you know, it's not a difficult technique, but the way it was implemented was, I think, quite tasteful. It gives you a bigger sense of space than if that had just been left as forest. Which would be, I think, the more typical technique, you know, right after this little road, make everything else forest. Because most people naturally focus on the areas of interest and they don't think too much about that background. Now, arguably, there are a little bit more cows there than would be realistic, but I don't know. What do I know? Talking like I'm a cow expert or something. Dairy expert. And it is very nice to see this multi-industry working so well. Have not had any problems with that in the last couple playthroughs that I've made. But both for multi-industry as well as for AI trains, I always am prepared for the worst because sometimes there's some sort of bug in one or the other, or it does something that I couldn't have predicted. But I'm not complaining. I'm overall satisfied and not requesting any changes. Trust but verify. That's what we are doing right now. Okay, this is underway. And now it looks like Andrew is moving, so Andrew was just waiting for a red signal. It's all good. Maybe that was due to Grundy's? I just don't know. Tram is heading for Old Town. Now, could Tram actually head for Old Town and leave one of these two locomotives? These are S2s, and I'm assuming S2 could handle 1,000 tons. Okay, so we only have 3, and I would cut that in half for a 1% grade. Okay, so it's total 500 tons right now, but there's actually the most heavy car there is not going to be on this consist, so. So how about it, Tram? You are just going to take one of these cars to Shawnee. Yellow block signal here. I don't know why that would be. Yeah, we have spent more time in this spot, this episode, than in any of the major industries or populated areas. Ooh, probably cut that a little too short. Yeah, I thought that I would get to Berwind last episode, or maybe 2 episodes ago. But now we're definitely going to be on our way. First time visiting the Eureka store, at any rate. I wish this siding were not so long, but perhaps Tram or whoever is going to be leading the lead engine for that car going back to Shawnee, perhaps they can do a runaround on AI control. Because otherwise, I don't think it's worth it. Okay, so which one is Tram on? Tram is on the lead engine. Oh, they're going backwards, but lead engine here. So Tram will be actually taking that covered hopper back to Shawnee, just right around the corner, basically. And I believe Isla will be jumping onto that other S2. So let's have you couple with train car 6. Couple with all right, yeah, it takes a while to sort of figure out how to navigate the different destinations on the AI control. Sorry about that. Okay, so what we are going to do here Okay. And that is where we are going to leave it. I went a little bit over time this time, just because I felt it was necessary. It's a beautiful shot, in my opinion, and I think when we come back to this route next week, we will actually be able to get inside the cab of this S2. I'm really looking forward to that, really looking forward to seeing what that's going to look like We've only seen one of those cabs so far. I don't know how many of them I'm going to be able to finish in the next week or so because there's a lot left to do. But that is something for me to look forward to anyway. And we'll be, of course, arriving at Old Town and handling all these cars. We'll be dealing with all the other urgent today tasks, which we're quite a bit behind on, I have to say. Seems like the activity on this route is just a little bit behind what we're seeing on the Wallace branch, even though most of the tasks are underway in one shape or form. So, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next time on the Pennsylvania and Berwind.